While others celebrate the wins,
Yes.
We celebrate the mud.
each episode has a special guest.
Tony-nominated actress, Broadway's Lily Cooper.
Tashir Zameda.
David A. Gregory.
Getting messy with muddy topics.
We are going to be talking about grief journey.
With hilarious moments
Now get over here.
And deep conversations.
I'm ashamed to even admit this, but this is what happened.
This is Into the Mud.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Into the Mud podcast. While others celebrate the wins,
We celebrate the mud. We are coming to you live from the Barrow Room at the Malin in the West Village. And we are here with today's guest, Carly Kane.
Carly.
We're so stoked. Thanks for coming. So good to see you. Love having you here. So Carly is a stand-up comedian, writer, actor. I mean, many hats.
I'll do it.
Many hats. She's
Social media influencer.
She's an influencer. She's a queen. She's a deep voice queen.
Yes,
I love
deep
her.
voice, deep
Absolutely.
You do have a smoky, sexy,
Absolutely.
like raspy deep voice.
Super
you should
smoke.
also be doing voiceover.
You should 100% be.
Thank you guys. Oh my God. I'm like, is this the
welcome to the
podcast? I
pod.
just
Welcome
come
to
and
the
get
pod.
compliments?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
exactly.
welcome to this world.
Precisely.
Yes.
How do you two know each other?
So Carly and I, we go back to Chicago days. Yes. So we met each other in the Chicago comedy scene. We actually hosted the famed Cole's Open Mic.
Wait, this is the one I came to.
This is the one you
Yeah.
came to.
I might have seen. Did I see you then?
That was before. That was before Carly's time.
That was 2018.
So the Cole's
Yeah, that's-
Open Mic is how would
Just
you explain it?
It's just a Chicago staple. Just Cole's Bar is just like a fun dive bar run by a great guy. And it's just an open mic that's been happening for how many, like,
I mean, it was
15
started by
years.
like Cameron Esposito
45 years.
probably like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
And we would put up 60 stand-up comedians every Wednesday night from 9 p.m. to 2
Yeah,
a.m. and
and-
absolutely pull our hair out every week.
comedians are supposed to get there like as soon as the bar opens,
Yeah.
and then they can't leave until like I think that rule has changed a bit.
I'm
But
sure
that was
they
sort
follow
of
the rules.
Yeah, it was kind of like, you know, I think the lore. That's the lore of it, though, is that
yeah.
you get there when the bar opens, and you're there sometimes till like 3 a.m.
And back when I started the God, especially Chicago, it was like I would get just a bullet bourbon neat. I would get like 3 or 4 of them because I had to sit there for 3 hours, and I'd be like,
and
"It's for
wrangle 60
confidence."
comedians.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, Alex. I've seen Alex literally have to go up on stage and grab the mic out of like a drunk man's hands. Like, no security there. Like, literally, Alex is just like, "Give it to me." You know, it's like
Sort of.
We were just 2 girls, literally like.
Excuse me, please.
Yeah. It was like, why are we the ones, you know, taking down this man that jumped on the stage? But
Probably making penis jokes.
oh yes,
No doubt.
no doubt.
No doubt.
But yeah,
so
Alex was
that's-
a guiding light for me in Chicago.
you're my
She
guiding
really
light.
was just the
You're
best.
my guiding light.
She is.
I love you.
We're so lucky to have her.
Stop it. We're lucky to have Drew. We're lucky to have Carly.
So lucky to be here.
So we, so we go back to Chicago days, and then you moved here last
Yeah,
year.
it's been a year now.
been a year.
A year,
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. How do you feel? Like you're number one.
I feel really good. I mean, the first year was tough. I'm not gonna lie. It was a hard first year, but I'm really starting to love it. How long have you been here?
Okay. This is gonna age me. I moved here in 2005, so I'm coming up August of 2024 will be 19 years for me.
Wow,
Drew
you're a
just
New
turned
Yorker.
20. Drew just
Yeah, I
turned
just
20.
turned-
Birthday.
So I've officially spent more of my life in New York City than I have in Massachusetts, where I'm from.
Wow,
Isn't that wild to think
it
about
is
that?
wild.
So crazy.
That's
But
amazing.
anyway, I'm old. Here we are. Yay.
Old is no, not old.
No, we're not old. We're
Not old.
I'm old as a dancer because I have no knees anymore. But as a human, I'm youthful.
Yes.
20 years young.
I wish I could.
So we wanted to talk to you. So we wanted to talk about sort of where you're in the mud right now, and you and I have talked about so many things, particularly within the comedy industry, but just in general, like mental health stuff. So tell us a little bit about just like anywhere where you're feeling just like stuck in the mud in the in between space right now.
Yeah, no, I think honestly this is so fitting for right now because it is. I mean, obviously moving to New York, it's such a. I mean, this is an amazing city. Like, it's such a privilege to live here. And then I moved here and I was like, what the fuck is going on? You know, like, it's been a hard transition to sort of like figure out, you know, exactly what direction I want to go in, breaking into a like third comedy scene because I was in Chicago and then LA, and it's just like at this point I'm like, I'm just tired, you know. And as you like, you know, with the entertainment industry, things just don't move linearly.
Yeah.
Did I make that up? That word?
No. It's up, it's down. Sometimes you're winning, sometimes you're losing. It really is all over the place. There's no continued, like, strict, direct path. So you're right.
Well, and something that I feel like we've talked about this. I've talked about this with so many people in so many different fields, but just this idea, particularly now with like social media, this concept of like compare despair, right? That like we're looking around at everyone else's highlight reel. We're looking at like what everyone else is doing, and it's quantified by numbers now with social media, and just like just dealing with that, and then the kind of mental health avalanche that can follow when you're looking around and you're like, speaking of age, just like I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I should be further along, or this person who's younger than me has gotten to the milestones quicker than I have, and like how like you are pretty open about talking about like mental health stuff. Like, does this compare despair thing, like does it hit you in any particular way, and how do you deal with?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I pay $100 a year for an app that blocks my apps, so I don't have to look at it because
Really?
I have this app, Opal, not sponsored, but it will block my Instagram, my TikTok, and it honestly has changed my mental health because I think if you are someone that's, well, here's the thing about comparison too, is it's like my brain is already looking for it. So if I'm on social media, it's not even about the individual. Like my brain is going to attach that to that first thing that hits any insecurity or any, you know, thing that your brain is telling you. And then it's like, there's, you know, maybe there's someone that I'm like comparing myself to, and I'll run into them and they're like, I'm having a horrible year. And you're like, what do you mean? But all of these things. And it's like, no, and that's a helpful reminder that it's like a lie. Like I feel like I haven't been doing any stand up, and I saw my friend and she's like, you're doing so much stand up. And I'm like, no, I'm not, you know, but it is the highlight reel. So it's, I think remembering the reality of that, it's like, of course, logically you can remind yourself of that, but when you're in it, it's like, I have to block it because also it's something I don't notice as much. I don't know if you feel this way, where it doesn't really happen to me in person. Like if a friend or someone I know is telling me about something that it's like, I'm genuinely so happy for them. Yeah. It's that layer of social media that allows you to like, it allows for the delusion to kind of go on because you're not face to face with someone. You don't actually know what's going on. So
I would say my compare despair with that is that when I see somebody else who's succeeding, I'm always genuinely happy for them.
Yes.
And I, because I'm a crazy person, turn it on myself where I'm not saying, I hate them, they're succeeding, I should have that. I flip it around and I'm like, man, why do I suck? And I'm like, oh man, like, I'm like, I'm happy for you, but like, why can't I do that? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? I didn't make it on the Forbes 30 under 30, I'm fucked. Like, like that's where it goes to me because I tend to have self-deprecating tendencies. This is my Hinge profile. So let's date. So yeah, I go to self-deprecation.
Oh yeah. No, I totally relate to that because it is, and then you feel worse about yourself if you're like taking someone's thing and then you're like, why am I having personal feelings about myself? But yeah, it is, always like so happy for people. And then I really relate to that. I'm like, okay, well, what have I done wrong? Or like, I also have OCD, so my brain will be like, you must have said something 10 years ago that like, You did. My brain.
You to it. You absolutely
I'm
did.
like, this is good exposure therapy. You did. But it's just, I was recently diagnosed with OCD, so that's been interesting. That's been really interesting.
What are you comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, let's define OCD.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, even though it's everywhere on social media these days, but.
So it's like, I think it's like, and even I always thought it was like, I have to, people that are really clean or like you have to tap things a couple times. I had that a lot when I was younger, but mine is actually like all in my head. So I will like make up things that haven't, like I have like false memory OCD, where I'll like make up things that haven't happened and obsess over them, or convince myself like I'm like a bad person. Like it's all in my brain to the point where I'll have to like confess to people. So I'll call a friend and be like, can I tell you about something I did in college? And they're like, what? Like, so.
And they're like, you actually didn't do that. And you're like,
exactly. I'm like, I made it up. So that's been interesting to learn.
How does one get diagnosed? Like, is it like speaking to a therapist, or like how did this?
So it was so funny. Me and actually a couple of my friends all got diagnosed at the same time. I was literally it's a lot of like intrusive thoughts. So I was like on Reddit and I literally saw it. And
This
then I
is
went
your
to,
therapist?
Yeah. And then I went to my psychiatrist and I was like, hey, I think I've maybe had this for my whole life and it's gone under the radar.
Yeah.
And I think it's the thing that like is ruining my life. And he was like, yeah, that's OCD. Because I had always assumed it's like, oh, well, I don't have the physical compulsions of like tapping, but I have like the compulsions of like confessing or like obsessing or, you know, spending my whole day researching something but it's been helpful to learn.
Because now you can navigate with that information instead of just blindly trying to like figure out where to go and how to deal with it.
Yes, exactly.
What are some of the, like, is there like a treatment or is there like, what is like, how do you navigate through that?
So it's like a lot of like exposure therapy.
Okay.
So it's like, you know, what's your biggest fear? And then you have to like expose yourself to that. And sort of it's, you know.
I admire you. I wouldn't be good at that.
I did it for a week and I was like, I'm going to need a break on this. So I didn't do it too long, but.
Can you give us an example of a fear that you exposed yourself to and how did it go?
Yeah,
and also,
Is there
whatever.
Yeah. Like a lot of my fears are like, I'm like, you know, I will get like a lot of like fucked up, like violent or fucked up intrusive thoughts. So it's being like, you know, your therapist will be like, well, what if you did like hurt someone? Like, well, what if you are like a bad person? And you just kind of have to like sit with that.
So you went out on the street and you punched people.
Yeah. I've been,
Okay, no,
I've
no, I'm
been,
kidding.
Stabbed a
I've
man.
been the New York puncher.
I knew you looked familiar.
Exposure therapy, you guys.
I knew it.
But yeah, it's definitely been interesting. And I'm very new on the journey of like OCD therapy. So I'm not a bit like, no expert, but you know.
Well, you're an expert in yourself.
Yeah. There you go.
Are there any resources that you have used, or even other Instagram page, or I guess you're blocking social media? But
I'm still on.
We're
I'm still
selective.
there.
It's called the
blocking.
desktop.
Yep.
Are there any resources that have helped you with, I guess, understanding more about OCD, and then also helpful tips or tools that, you know, have come to light recently?
Yeah, so I know there's this great app called NoCD, which is like a pretty accessible therapy app for OCD, which I haven't tried, but has been really recommended by my friends, and I've like downloaded it and stuff. And honestly, I have just been searching OCD on TikTok, and you see the thoughts that other people have, and you're like, oh my God, I'm not alone. You know what I mean? And so that's been really helpful. And I have a group chat with 2 of my friends that have it, and like my friend sent me recently.
What's the group chat name?
I honestly forget, but it is something.
We need to all brainstorm a group chat name.
I know, I'm like, we might need help
Knock
with
3
it.
times?
But
Not 3 times.
the
The coffee maker's still on. Wow, we're going to hell. We might have to
It's
edit
like
this
you're
all
not a
out.
murderer. You're not a murderer.
Sorry.
No, that's hilarious. My friend will send me like a OCD specific meditation tapes because sometimes it can really. There's like relationship OCD too. It's really fascinating. Where you convince yourself like, no, I don't love my partner. I'm gonna do this thing to like fuck up my relationship. Like it's really. It's kind of, I think a lot of people can relate to like intrusive thoughts or thought spirals. And it's sort of that to like an obsessive extent where it kind of like controls your day, controls your life, and you're kind of like feel debilitated by it.
Wow.
Do you think social media is exacerbating the OCD?
I think for me it was like, it's like, and also like little things can trigger it. So I just have to be very careful about like what I watch or what I consume. Cause then it's like, once you're in a thought spiral, which a lot of people can relate to, like, you know, one thing can kind of, but I think especially with stand-up or in a transitionary phase of a career, it's like, it also, what I do is I block my apps from 11:15 p.m. to 11:15 a.m. So it's like that time where it's like, I can't scroll at night and I can't scroll early in the morning. So I feel like that kind of sets up my brain. Do you guys do anything like that? Like, do you have rules for yourself?
Well, yeah, I know. yes and no, but mostly no. I caught a little news clip recently of like they were doing an interview with young people who were talking about just social media, and one of the people they were interviewing, she was like, my day is dictated by how many likes I get the second I wake up in the morning. And like,
Oh man.
my friend Hattie was telling me about this study that she read about where like this generation of teens now, Gen Z, have like some of the lowest rates of like alcohol and drug abuse, but the highest rates of like mental health issues. And I'm like, can you guys imagine having access to social media?
I would have been devastated.
I don't.
I wouldn't have made it.
So I kind of can't believe that social media apps are like. How do you feel? Do you think social media apps should be allowed for people under 18?
No, if I'm being honest. My parents didn't let me have like a Facebook until I think I was like 16 or something, and I still wish they didn't let me because I'm like some of the stuff on there from my, you know what I mean? A friend of a friend is a therapist for teens, and she was telling me like literally people will like how they fight is like they'll block each other, and like it's this very, you know, which we would think, I'm like, oh my God, if my friend was telling me about a friend that was blocking, unblocking, I'd be like, that's like abusive, that's toxic, but it's like, this is just how these teenagers are like learning to have relationships and communicate, and like it's all dictated online, like you were saying.
I feel conflicted by it.
Yeah.
Because I know how much it affects me now as an adult and how much I despise it. There's tiny things I like about it. But I think if I were a kid, especially being a queer kid that, you know, was feeling out of place, was questioning my sexuality, felt like I was the only one, even though I come from a very gay-ass family. I don't know why on earth I thought I was the only one. Literally, my oldest brother's gay. My uncle's gay. I have like 2 gay cousins. I don't know why I was like, it's me, I'm alone. So, again, the logic does not logic. However, I wonder if I had social media, if I had a phone and I could see how many queer, non-binary, transgender people were out there, I wish I had had access to that as a kid because I felt so isolated and so alone. And if I had had that in my hand, I would have felt so much more comfortable, I think. Or maybe I just would have been comparing myself to all the homosexuals like I do now because I'm like, I don't have a Fire Island house. I don't have $1 million. How can anybody afford to go to Fire Island?
Or maybe you just needed Grindr back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have sent a lot of people to prison. Edit that out.
No, that's so much.
Oh my God.
Edit and post.
Yeah.
I just think about how, to me, part of what is dividing us as adults so much right now is that we have lost our ability to like just have empathy and human interaction with each other. That it's so easy to like go in this like fire spiral online and say things to people and send people messages that you would never say to their face.
Absolutely not.
And I like when I think about even just like politically what the landscape looks like now versus even 15 years ago, it's like it just feels like social media has like driven this wedge in between. And I remember, Esther Perel.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Esther Perel. So Esther Perel was at the Beacon. Have we talked about this?
Yes.
So Carly actually was there with our friend Lael, and she was talking about how just this like disconnect is like it's completely affecting the way that people relate to each other now and have relationships, and that we've taken even just kids these days, like they don't play outside, like they're not learning skills, they're not learning how to like behave around other kids now because they're just sitting on their phone or computer.
I know, I loved what she said where she was like, just like my favorite thing to do is like talk to a stranger on a plane, and I was like, that's so beautiful.
And I would never.
She's a fucking psycho.
And I
Talk to a
would
stranger
never.
on
And
a
I would
plane.
never.
And then I was thinking about that.
It's also like you're talking to first class people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Esther,
You're not in coach.
Yeah. I know, because then I had a 15-hour flight like a couple weeks ago. There's a woman next to me. I'm like, maybe we'll bond, and she looked at me because I was in the middle seat, and she's like, you're gonna have a fucking awful flight. And then she just took her shoes off, and I think she was trying to like bond with me and be like, because you're in the middle seat. But I was like, yeah, this isn't really opening a conversation.
Strong intro.
Yeah. And then my friend is staying with me, Holmes, and they were like, yeah, I was talking to this guy on the plane, and now he has my number. And I'm like, why'd you give him your number? And they're like, have you ever been on a plane? Like, what am I supposed to do? Not give him my number? Yeah. And now, like, he's blowing up their phone, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe she was wrong about the plane stuff.
Yeah,
because-
don't talk to people on a plane.
But I do think we should be talking more. Just maybe not. on
just
planes.
not plane. Just not coach. Just not coach planes.
Yeah,
First class, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Sitting in a
talk to
chair like
everyone.
this, I would talk to everybody
Yeah,
I
exactly.
sat next to.
Unless they were like, you
Talk to
know,
each other?
what was that?
Do people in first class talk to each other? Like, what's the vibe up there?
Oh, the vibe. Every time you walk by them and they're just eye thing,
Pillow,
this,
blanket.
don't make eye contact with this steerage as they walk by.
In their own little like igloo.
Yeah. Oh my
Like,
God.
yeah. Wow. Okay, so I'm curious because we all can relate to this, all three of us, as creatives and as freelancers. Mental health is so damn challenging. So, how does your mental health affect your creativity being in a freelance community? You know, does it give you writer's block? Does it light a fire under your ass? What are the options?
I think kind of both. Like right now, I'm like doing copyright freelancing, and then that requires so much. Yeah, it's cool, but it's like, it requires so much creativity. And I'm like, I just did this for like a constipation ad, and now it's like, and now I'm like sad about
the copy.
Yeah.
Must know the copy.
Now I'm thinking about like the poor people buying that, like I'm lying to them, so it's like, I think it's a double-edged sword where it's like, great that it's like, okay, my creativity can help me make money while also doing comedy. And also it's like, it can feel like selling your soul a little bit. And I think people sometimes are like, if you have, there is like a big, like you're saying, a connection between creativity and like mental health, I think. And I think a lot of people, I don't think that you need to have mental illness in order to be creative, but I think it can be such an outlet when you do have mental health struggles to do something creative, because it can just be something that kind of frees you from that for a moment. I think that's kind of the correlation of it,
Yeah. And I feel like the tide is shifting a little, like from this concept of like the tortured artist. Like
Yeah.
only
Which,
like
thank
the real
God.
artists
Yeah.
are like just absolutely like depressed off the deep end,
Yeah.
alcoholics.
Only
like,
great art from
only
suffering.
great art. And it's like, I can't create under those circumstances. Like I am my most creative when I am like taking care of myself, when I feel the best about myself, which is a new thing for me too. Like
Totally.
this in the last couple of years, I've really turned the page with like just how I think about myself in general. Like I went through many years of just a lot of self-loathing and a lot of like depression that has switched, that I'm like, whoa, this is a whole new like world of I'm like, this is how people live. This is how you what? This is incredible. Holy shit.
Yeah, and the tortured artists, it's like those were just like really like gross like men mostly,
Yeah.
like the tortured, like I'm just like, no, he was just like an abuser.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
he's
no,
not-
it was a
He sounds
bad
really
man.
hot.
yeah. They sometimes
Is he
are.
single? Do you want to paint me? Van Gogh?
You would have gotten people arrested.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. 100%. Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Does the compare despair light a fire under your ass?
No, I don't
Okay.
think. I don't think it does, because I think it's I think what does like I love like going to a show and then like being inspired by someone's set, or being like, I love the way that person writes, and it's not about me. It's more just like I want to do something like that. I'm inspired by that. So I think that drives me more than like in a moment where I'm like, oh my God, am I not doing enough? Like I saw, because it's that same thing. It is a helpful perspective shift, because when you start Chicago comedy, it's like you're just around a bunch of like alcoholics and really sad people, and you're like, I guess this is who I have to be to like, I started and I was like, I want all these guys to think I'm so funny, and it's like, that is so sad, but that's just how it's presented to you at first.
Fully.
And so it takes unlearning even in that, where it's like, oh no, like that's not.
It's interesting
goal.
to also want to, just this idea of like starting in a field and what your initial goals are, and then as you work your way through them, like how they just have to change. Like
Yeah.
I'm in this place now with like this muddy place now of being like, I love stand-up. I'm always going to do stand-up, and stand-up is like the number one focus. And it is really hard for me to do stand-up 6 nights a week at late hours, right? Yes. And so how, like, just shifting into this, like, how do I figure out a different way of doing this that still gives me what I want while also balancing my need for rest and recuperation and just like quiet downtime.
Yeah.
And have you found that like as you are making your way through this career that your like goals have had to change, or that you have had to shift either your goals or the way that you do things to like accommodate your growth as a person?
Totally. I very much relate to that. And it's so funny because moving here, I was like, I'm gonna do so much stand-up. It's gonna be the most stand-up I've ever done. And I moved here, and this is like the least amount of stand-up I've done probably since like the pandemic. And it's not bad, but it's been a shift of like, I've been writing a lot and working on other things and like really having time for myself and like having my nights and going to bed early, and it's so nice. But then I'm also like, I need a little more stand-up, but I also can't be doing it every night and like need to go to bed at a decent hour, and I'm really loving writing. And I also think with social media, I'm learning, I'm like, I love stand-up and performing, but I don't know if I want, like, that all gives me, like, I'm like, I don't want to be like famous or anything. Like that really freaks me out. And so it's also being like, okay, maybe I would rather write something or like produce a short film. And so I'm trying to work on that, of stuff where I can be kind of behind the scenes a little bit more, which has been interesting.
What is unattractive to you about fame?
And what, not to say that I think I'm going to be famous. It sounds like I'm like, I'm running from fame.
Really trying to hold back the floodgates of fame here.
Yeah, I'm like, it's knocking on my door. But it's like,
Possibly.
Yeah. But it's like, you know, you'll have one video do well, and I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. Like, I'm going to jump off of a building. And I'm like, this is just not.
This isn't it.
And my partner is like on SNL. And so I watch, and again, it's like, Molly is not even like that, you know, but even just like, some people recognizing them, I'm like, that would literally, like, I was like, nope, that was just not something. I would just love to get up on stage, say something, and then leave. Obviously, it can feel good if like someone is like, I love your stuff, or like likes a video. It's not like I'm like immune to that high. It can feel amazing, but I think when I think about my life and like also just like my OCD triggers, like that stuff sends me on a spiral.
Well, it's interesting having to disconnect. And I think like in this conversation about compare, despair, social media stuff, like something I am actively trying to do is disconnect myself from the success or non-success of anything on social media, because it's so easy to latch on to a well-performing video, or, and this applies to anything at all. You get a raise at work, you get like some praise in some way, shape or form, and you go, I'm great. I'm invincible, or I did a great job, or you pat yourself on the back, which is all well and good. But the more that you hook into that, the more it drags you down when it's the opposite end. 100%. When you are missing that thing, when you don't get the opportunity, when you don't get the show, when you don't, and like, I remember, what is it? Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yeah, my favorite.
Love that
Obviously, we'll put it in the notes.
Great book.
But she talks about in that book about how I think it was like the Greeks, they called their they likened their creativity to like demons, or these like little deities that
Or demons.
or demons. Or demons. It was like, it's like DAE.
Like, it fucking
demon.
sucks.
Yeah, he's a devil. Absolutely. But that's where your creativity comes from. So if you have a particularly creative day, it's because your little deity showed up for you that day. And if you didn't have a creative day, then it didn't show up for you today. But it takes the onus of the creativity off of you and onto something else. And your only job is to just show up.
It's similar, yeah. It's similar to mental health in that capacity, that if you can separate yourself from it, you can. It's better to say, I am experiencing depression, instead of saying like, I am depressed, and that is what it is. And same thing with creativity, is saying, creativity has visited me today. And if it doesn't visit you, it's all good. It doesn't mean that I'm uncreative today and I'm a failure and I'm a loss. It is healthy to be able to find a way to separate yourself. If either of you can find a way to do it, let me know, because can't get it done.
This is in the therapy, the one, it's literally just like that with mental health. And they were like, imagine your brain. I'm like, I hate when sometimes the cheesy therapy stuff, I'm like, so good, you know? But this therapist was like, imagine your brain is like a chessboard, and then you have like, you know, you have your positive thoughts on one side and your negative thoughts on the other. And like, just when those thoughts start going at each other, just like separate it. It's just a chessboard. Just watch the pieces go. And I was like, that unfortunately changed my life.
I love that.
I'm like, that
This
little...
reminded me of the Harry Potter scene.
No, when they have the big...
Oh. Not me, not Hermione, yo!
They have remixed that on TikTok into a techno song.
It is so fucking funny.
It's the funniest thing. People are making t-shirts.
Oh, Ron. You love Ron.
linking it in the show notes.
Yes, yeah, that's going in there as well. Oh my God.
Well, one of the things also that you just brought up that we wanted to chat about was like being in a relationship with someone who is in the same field as you, and what like challenges or like pros, like what are the highs and lows of that, and like how does that affect your relationship?
Yeah, I think it is like in a way it's nice because also, you know, we started off as roommates. We were friends for a long time, you know, very gay, lesbian.
Roommates?
Yeah, roommates. They were roommates.
Yeah,
Really
sure.
can't have one original experience. It's like, I can't. But yeah, so it's like, I think there's that like understanding if you date another performer of like, you kind of get what it is. And I do feel like Molly really, you know, wants to be on more of the acting side, and I really like the writing side. So I do feel lucky that like we haven't had too much of that. Like, I think there's definitely been moments where their career has been higher and then I'm in more of a stagnant place where of course I'm like, oh my God, are they embarrassed by me? Or like, do they feel like it's more that feeling of like, I hope they still, you know, and they're not thinking about that at all. Yeah. So I think if anything, it's sometimes that will happen, but you know, for the most part, and you know, also like there is scheduling stuff where even as a performer, I'm like, do I want to be with someone that has to be like out all these late nights? And then I'm like, well, this is what I do too. So that understanding helps, but it also gives me that perspective where I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks sometimes, you know, to have like your partner gone or like out for late hours. But then it's like, I think what's helpful is being like, well, at times I want that too. So it's almost like a, but yeah, I think it's been really great in a lot of ways. And obviously it's like, and, you know, sometimes it's other people that are weird, you know, like people will be like, talk to me about like SNL or ask me questions and like be weird, and I'm like, what do you think I can do for you? Like, I can't even. They're like, can you like, you know, text Molly for me or reach out or like, and I'm like, you know,
for like show stuff.
Yeah.
We want Molly to do this show.
Yeah,
it's
and I'm like, I'm not there. So that is where it gets weird, where it's not even about Molly. It's just like how other people are.
Yeah.
And even at like I went to my dad's wedding and it's like all of these older people that watch SNL and they're like, we love SNL. And I'm like, hi, I'm Carly.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
I'm literally his daughter.
Yeah.
Kev.
I'm like, they're not here right now. But nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
How was your dad's wedding?
Oh, sorry.
It was good. It was a blast, actually. They killed it, you know? Crush.
Do you find support in having a partner who's also in the same industry? Does it feel supportive to have somebody that also understands, I'm so sorry you didn't get that gig, or I'm so sorry you're feeling stuck right now? There is a commonality in the way that we experience the creative arts and creative fields. Do you find a lot of support from Molly and vice versa to them when you're going through businessy kerfuffles?
Yeah, absolutely. It is so nice because I'll just be like, I'm feeling so disconnected from stand-up, and I don't even have to explain it. They're like, I completely understand.
Totally get it. Yeah.
They're like, I get it. They know that feeling, and so it's nice that you don't have to like explain it, because also sometimes it can feel, you know, when you say it, it's like, I feel like I'm not doing enough shows, and it's like someone that's like a nurse is like, what? You know, it's like, shut up. So it's nice to also have that like understanding without judging yourself, or, you know, so in that way, it's like, so we can also ground each other and be like, life is actually good, and like, you know, so it's helpful in both of those ways, because we can ground each other and there's not this like over explaining or like, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Like, there's like no
You don't
judgment.
have to explain all about. You don't have to be like, so a callback.
What's a callback?
Yeah. I've dated inside and outside the industry, and I'm never gonna date in the industry again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you prefer?
Oh, what? Tell us about that.
You know, it's not a comparison thing, actually. My last boyfriend, who's lovely, he was in a Broadway show majority of the time that we were dating, but we started dating during the pandemic. So we had all this like infinite amount of time that had nothing to do with the business, which was so delightful. And we could actually spend time. And then once he went back into his show, Broadway opened back up again. Then we were on flip-flop reverse schedules, which is really challenging. And then I'm catering all the time. And then he's doing nighttime shows. So the scheduling was really challenging for me. But I think there's also a part of me that really, in my later days of life, I'm really seeking stability and consistency in schedule, which we absolutely do not get in the creative field. Right. So there is a part of me that is, if my schedule is going to be super, super hectic, then I want at least a partner who has a 9 to 5, their schedule is consistent, they can plan the vacations, they can do this, and that I have an anchor somewhere. Not to say I'm not going to date an actor again, because I fucking love creative people. I love creative people, and that was actually one of the things that turned me on most about my ex, was that he is so outrageously talented and creative. He does a lot of video work as well, but very, very talented. So that was a massive turn on for me.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a double-edged sword as well. I say I'm like, I'm never gonna date an actor again, and then I guess I get drawn in because I love creative people.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, because it's like, I'm not always around as many people that do 9 to 5s, and then sometimes you meet an accountant and you're like, there's really nothing up there, and not all accountants, but you know what I mean?
Not all,
like
hashtag not all accountants.
But yeah,
Sorry.
I totally get that. It is very much a double-edged sword. What would be like your ideal, what would be the ideal job that someone would have?
Oh my God, you're the host now, Carly.
The tables have turned.
I'm like, what's the hottest 9 to 5?
That is what is the hottest 9 to 5?
I would say I'm looking for a guy in finance, blue eyes, trust fund, 6'5". I don't know, whatever the song is.
That was it.
But she's not wrong.
No, not at all.
I would love all of that. That would be great. I always jokingly say finance, but honestly, the biggest thing is I just find it so attractive when someone loves what they do. So if you love being a garbage man, like, sign me up. Like I will
Take
date
the trash
I will
out.
date you, that really sexy ass sanitation worker. Like, I got you. If you love what you do, that being passionate about your craft and your career is such a turn on to me. But finance.
Perfect. Well, we have as we wrap up, it's time for our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So, we're just gonna go rapid fire. I'm gonna ask you 5. Drew's gonna ask you 5. Don't overthink it. Okay, take it.
But I feel like I'm on Watch What Happens Live.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal that you answer these correctly.
It's very important.
It's really important.
And just what immediately comes right off the top of your head.
Okay, ready? Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Mountain.
Music or silence?
Music.
Home cooked meal or restaurant?
Restaurant.
If you were a fruit, what would you be?
Apple.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
100 duck-sized horses.
Clueless or Scream?
Clueless.
Kill, Fuck, Marry, Literary version. Romance novels, sci-fi, thriller.
Marry, thriller, fuck sci-fi, kill romance.
I would definitely fuck sci-fi as well. Would you rather swim with a great white shark or sit in a tank filled with snakes?
Sit in a tank filled with snakes.
Would you rather chug a gallon of blue Mountain Dew or eat one cockroach?
Eat one cockroach.
Okay. Is Walt Disney still alive or frozen?
He's frozen for sure.
Okay. Who wrote the line The Witch in the Wardrobe?
Oh my God, C.S. Lewis.
Bravo! Well done! Yes, Carly. Well done.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for.
This was so fun, you
We love you
guys.
so much. Where can our listeners find you?
Unfortunately, on Instagram.
Absolutely. Where at iCarly Kane.
iCarly Kane, yeah.
And you run a fun show.
Yes.
A monthly?
So there's Cherry at the Sultan Room last Wednesdays of the month, and then It Girls We Do randomly at Union Hall or Littlefield. So yeah.
Thank you all so much for tuning Into the Mud. I'm Alex Kumin.
I'm Drew King.
And I am Carly. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey,
here,
remember to
Carly.
like, follow, and subscribe. Love y'all.
Bye.